In this sense, disinformation combined with labeling is a structural challenge to democratic society and systems.
Mechanisms may appear under the guise of protecting public order, combating extremism, sectarianism, or safeguarding democratic values. However, in practice, they have shown to be instrumentalized to suppress dissent, restrict freedom of association, and limit freedom of religion.
At that stage, the object of disinformation is no longer a specific individual or a group, but entire nations, political systems, or cultural spheres.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Karolina Hronová, and I have the pleasure of moderating this side event titled From Labels to Consequences: How Disinformation and Stigmatization Lead to Transnational Repression. Let me start with a simple question. Have you ever seen a group, a community, or even an individual being repeatedly labeled until it became normal to distrust them? In today's information environment, this happens more often than we realize, because labeling is not just language, it is not just opinion. In many cases, it is the first step of exclusion and sometimes the first step toward repression. What may appear as public debate, criticisms, or even just words can function as a structured mechanism, one that shapes perception, isolates individuals or groups, and gradually lowers the threshold for discrimination and rights violations. And importantly, this is not limited to one country or one context. We see similar patterns across the OSCE region, targeting civil society actors, journalists, religious communities, and political figures. So, context may be changing, but the pattern remains the same. In general, no one is protected against becoming the target of this labeling mechanism. Today, we want to unpack that mechanism, how it starts, how it spreads, and what consequences it creates. We will look at the broader pattern, explore how it is amplified in digital spaces, and importantly, hear real-life cases, because behind every label, there are real people and real impacts. Finally, and most importantly, we will focus on the practical takeaway: how to recognize these patterns early before they escalate. The side event is organized by ALLATRA, an international volunteer civic platform with a US-based research center and public interest engagement. It is my pleasure to introduce the panelists, representatives of ALLATRA Global Research Center, Maria Anna Prejčík, a lawyer with expertise in international and European law from Switzerland, Vladimir Ivanov, a lawyer and human rights expert from Bulgaria, and Talios Krupny, expert on open source intelligence analysis from the United States, joining us remotely. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us today and helping us today in comprehensive understanding of this complex issue, directly connected with safety in civic space in the digital era. So, what do we actually mean when we talk about labeling in this context? Maria, please, can you take a word and clarify the problem from the point of view of international and European law?
Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, dear colleagues, first of all, it is my honor to contribute to today's discussion. And in the digital era, the challenge we face is no longer simply misinformation as isolated false statements. We are dealing with the structural transformation of the information society, information environment, where perception itself becomes the primary object of manipulation. As highlighted in the European Parliament study, The Fight Against Disinformation and Right to Freedom of Expression, the central issue is the systemic manipulation of the information environment, where multiple techniques are used to shape perception and influence behavior. Within this framework, labeling operates as one of the foundational instruments of such influence. So this phenomenon must be assessed within the framework of the European Convention on Human Rights, in particular Article 8 and 10, as interpreted in the case law of the ECHR. This requires the application of the structured legal tests, such as legality, the legitimate aim, and necessity in a democratic society, as well as a balancing exercise between freedom of expression and the protection of right of reputation.